Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user Heavy Illustrator 852. My 37 male wife, 35 female, had a threesome with her best friend and husband years ago, and they want to do it again. Now I don't want them around us anymore. I've known this for a long time, but when my wife was younger, she had a few threesomes with her best friend and her husband, then boyfriend. This was years before we even met, and she told me early in our relationship just so there would be no secrets. I've never had a problem with my wife being around her best friend alone, since the threesome didn't involve much girl on girl, but more sharing her boyfriend. And for that reason, I've had trouble throughout our marriage being around both of them. I just have trouble having a normal conversation, knowing that this guy has had sex with my wife. My wife doesn't think anything of it and is completely comfortable. It's just something she did for a little while, then stopped because she wasn't into it anymore once the taboo thrill wore off. She can even talk about it with them as casually as she talks about a concert they went to. However, she doesn't do this when I'm around because she knows it makes me uncomfortable. Anyway, we were all together last weekend and her friend had gotten a little drunk and brought it up. My wife quickly shut her down, but the impression I got was that there had been a lengthier conversation leading up to this that I didn't know about. Later on, my wife told me that her friend and husband had asked if she and I were interested in doing something. They were down for whatever we were comfortable with, but my wife admitted that they really wanted her again, but with me watching. My wife knows there is no way in hell I would be down for that, and neither would she. My wife stopped doing that with them for a reason, and that's before she got married and had kids. My wife has told me to just forget they said anything, but holy crap, how can I do that now? I swallowed being around them when these incidents were well in the past, but now that they are openly lusting for my wife, I don't know if I feel comfortable with her or me being around them. Am I wrong here? How do I navigate this? I don't want to tell my wife to break off her friendship, but something I feel needs to be done. Wow, OP, in my opinion, this is a very good reason to break off this friendship. Let's simplify it a little bit. What would happen if an ex-friends with benefits of yours would come and tell you that she wants to take you to bed, but with your wife watching? Because honestly, I don't see a difference between one person asking this, two people asking this, or a whole platoon of people asking this. It doesn't make it right. Now, of course, you can't force your wife to drop the friendship, but I would tell her there is no way in hell I'm ever going to be around those people ever again. They are no longer welcome in our house because that is a 1 no, 2 yes kind of situation. This is my boundary and I ask you to respect it. If you want to remain friends with them, just know that I will be deeply uncomfortable with it. So no, OP, I don't think you're wrong, and I think you should really sit down with your wife and tell her how you feel and how you'd like to go about this. And what advice would you give, OP? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. The Burning Quill says, in swinger circles, this is considered wife poaching and would be a reason to cut ties immediately. In the vanilla world, it's a more serious breach. You are a monogamous relationship and that makes you out of bounds. Your wife is also not blameless here. She should have shut this down immediately. Explain that your trust is broken and that you cannot feel comfortable with her friends and her interacting after this. You can process her reaction from there and it will tell you everything about the real strength of your relationship. Demonic Snow says, swingers have a term for this, wife poaching, and it's a reason to drop couples you interact with. The fact that swingers consider it crappy means a more vanilla couple should see this as a big red flag. They clearly don't see you as a person in this scenario. It's insanely disrespectful to have brought it up in that way. Like, I've been in scenarios of asking another couple if they might be interested, but it's always a package deal. This is gross. I don't think you're wrong to want to cut ties, or at least not do crap with them for a while, including your wife's hangouts with her best friend. And Manners 2210 says, it's not about wrong. Feelings are feelings and you feel how you feel. You need to be completely honest with how you feel, what you need to feel secure and not tiptoe around am I right or wrong. Then you tell her. Whilst, quote, I don't want to tell her to break off the friendship, end quote, is cool, what do you actually want to happen? If you want her to break off the relationship, then say that. You can't have it both ways, and in these situations, too many people beat around the bush and half say their point without actually saying what they need to happen, voicing their concern but reaching no actual conclusion. Be clear what your desired conclusion is. Now, if she doesn't want to cut them off, she has that right. Then you discuss what works for you in terms of communication, contact, boundaries, etc., and what doesn't work for you. Additional information from OP's comments. My wife feels uncomfortable now that I am uncomfortable, but if I was okay, then she wouldn't care. As far as she's concerned, since she will never do anything, it doesn't matter what they want to happen. And my wife isn't going to cheat on me. She won't throw away our family for something she's already done and passed on doing anymore. Also, she couldn't handle me being with another woman. This all happened over a decade ago. She's much different now. Now, they haven't mentioned their past in a long time around me. My wife doesn't care if they talk about it because, as I mentioned, my wife just treats it like any other activity they shared. That's weird, I know, but she is able to separate sex and emotion, while I can't. And when they brought up getting together again, my wife shut it down in that conversation. She apologized for not telling me, but she said she firmly said no for both of us. From what I gather, they would have accepted my involvement if it was a requirement to getting my wife. They really want my wife again and will do whatever it takes to make that happen. On top of that, they really want me watching. That is the thrill they are looking for, which is basically humiliating me, which I'm actually offended by. Like, that's one of their kinks, to humiliate me. This guy wants to have sex with my wife, the mother of my children, and look me in the face while he does it. I'm not a toy for their sexual amusement. Now, I don't think this kink is specific to me, but there is definitely a kink that involves married men watching their wives with them. They both also think my wife is really hot and apparently talk about their time together often, and involving me in this fantasy is just something they apparently want very badly. Still, I'm sure that if I voice my discomfort, they will promise never to bring it up again, but that doesn't make me any more comfortable. In summary, my wife's best friend is a swinger. It's just that simple. Her and her husband have sex with different people, sometimes together, sometimes separate. It's just part of their lifestyle. It's not how my wife is. And asking her to drop this friendship is tough since the woman in this scenario is her best friend and has been since high school. They go back a long way, and before this incident, I had to just swallow it because she was upfront from the beginning about what happened. But now, I think it's different. Okay, well, the majority of the community is telling OP that, yeah, this is not right. It's wife poaching, apparently. It's a term. I had no idea this thing was a thing, but apparently it is. And OP should drop their friendship. And we can tell from the extended content that OP really hates this whole idea, but he still doesn't know how to address this with his wife because of how long the friendship is. In any case, it's time for us to move on to the update to see what happened next and how the story ends. After I posted, I had a deeper conversation with my wife about her friends and expressed my discomfort about being around people that are lusting after my wife and fantasize about having sex with her in front of me. She said she understood how I felt, but told me that there was absolutely nothing I should be concerned about. To my wife, her friend and her husband are not serious people. They are fun to be around, but that's it. She experimented with them in her early 20s, but she was a different person then. She was very sexually adventurous in college and right after, and did a lot of things she'd never think of doing now. She said she's a 35-year-old married mother of two with a serious career, and she simply isn't interested in behaving like that anymore. Not to mention that she is happily married and loves me. While I understood all that, and I do trust her, I told her that my point still stands. And my point is that I am just not comfortable around them. My wife then asks if we could talk it out with her friends, and if after that talk I'm still uncomfortable, then she will agree to whatever I am comfortable with. So I agreed and we met them last night at our house. They both apologized and swear to never bring it up again, but I can tell that neither think of this as a big deal, and from their tone, it seems like they think I am being overly sensitive. So I raise that point, and they concede that they do think that I am being silly. They tell me that the time they had with my wife was a very memorable experience, that they wanted to experience it again, and simply asked if my wife would be interested in participating with me or with my approval. They say that they would have been happy to allow me to participate in any way I liked, but did admit that their biggest fantasy was to basically double team my wife while I watched. But my wife had no interest. They confirmed that she shut it down quickly. They brought it up later while they were drunk because they figured maybe I would have some interest, and if I did, I could convince her to do it. My wife's friend then says that once I let go of my inhibitions, she guarantees that I would enjoy myself. How they think I would enjoy any experience that involves someone else effing my wife, whether I'm actively involved or not, is beyond me. I'm about to say this when my wife jumps in. She tells them that I will not be enjoying anything. She says that she's not 22 anymore and has babies asleep upstairs. She tells them that neither of us will be effing anyone else, and she thought she made that very clear. It got a little awkward after that, and they left shortly after. My wife hugged me when they left and said she was sorry for asking me to talk to them. That was not how she expected that to go. We talked a little more and she admitted that hearing their stories is a fun escape, and even got flattered when they would tell her how much they loved being with her, but admitted that it's become a little too real and she could not stand the thought of watching me with someone else and understands how I feel. So we agreed to take a good long break from seeing them. My wife isn't going to completely cut her best friend out of her life, but we are going to manage how we see them. No more drinking, no more alone with both of them in their home or ours. Shopping, lunch, and similar activities is where she is going to keep the friendship, and I can live with that. Alright OP, I'm gonna call it a happy update. Your wife's suggestion actually helped her see what your boundaries are about, and she's absolutely on board. So on that note, here's wishing you the best in the future. Thanks for sharing and take care. And now let's check out the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user Sleepy Chick. Am I the a-hole for refusing to apologize for snapping back at my friend's sister? Background. My 33 female friend Beth, 34 female, has an older sister, Jill, 38 female, who has hated me since we first met. She always called me a weirdo freak and said I deserved the bullying I got at school because I was such a dork. I stopped visiting Beth's house because of Jill and didn't see her again until Beth's 18th birthday, where she told people that I was harassing her boyfriend. I'd literally said hello to him and that was it, because I was too ugly and weird to attract my own guy. Thankfully, she moved away not long after, and I was just glad to be rid of her. Now, Beth and I arranged a dinner reservation with the other three in our group: Liz, 33 female, Kelly, 34 female, and Megan, 34 female. This was our first real chance to see each other in over 2 years due to a number of reasons, and we were all looking forward for a chance to catch up. Beth offered to drive me and Kelly with her to the restaurant, since neither of us can drive and I had CFS and several types of chronic pain, so traveling isn't easy for me. We caught a bus to Beth's flat together, but it was Jill who answered the door, which shocked us both. Beth hadn't told us Jill was visiting, and we'd have appreciated a heads up since neither of us have a good history with Jill. Still, we were polite. Kelly said hello and complimented Jill's dress, and I said, "Hi Jill, nice to see you, how have you been?" Jill completely ignored Kelly and turned to me and said, "Better than you, clearly. Still a pale freak, aren't you?" I couldn't help it and snapped at her that at least I'm not a bitter hag still clinging to grudges I started with a 12-year-old. Maybe it's time you grew up a bit. Jill immediately ran off screaming for Beth and said she's not taking us anywhere until that "see you next Tuesday" apologizes. Which confused me and Kelly because why would she be taking us anywhere? That was when Beth came out and revealed her car was broken, so Jill meant to be driving us and I shouldn't have been cruel to her sister. And that's just Jill's humor. Kelly called BS and said Jill is a bully and she only surprised I hadn't snapped years ago and told me I'd better not apologize. Beth said, "Well, you can make your own way to the restaurant then," and kicked us out. Kelly and I called Liz and Megan to update them and said we'd be running late since we now had to pay for a cab and they are split. Liz thought I should just apologize because Beth is siding with Jill and it would cut the tension, but Megan thought this was too long overdue and Jill had it coming and Beth needs to accept her sister's actions have consequences. In the end, I refused to apologize and we got a taxi, only to find out Beth was refusing to join us over what I said to Jill. This was a week ago and Beth is now refusing to speak to any of us other than Liz, who told her she said I was at fault until I apologized to her sister. Am I the a-hole? Well, OP, no, from the sounds of it, you are not the a-hole. To me, it sounds like there's 2.5 a-holes, or 2 3/4. Of course, Jill and Beth, and Liz, who kind of also pinned it on you. Honestly, OP, if I was in your shoes, I would just tell Beth, you know what, Beth, I'm not gonna apologize to your sister because of how she's treated me all her life, and you've been witness to it, and if you don't want to talk to me because your 38-year-old sister is having a 5-year-old tantrum, then I guess that's it. And then you tell Megan and Kelly that you guys should go out to dinner. If Liz wants to join, she can, but there will be no talking about Beth or Jill. That's it. And what is your judgment? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's go check out the community comments. Sure Acadia 4376 says, "Not the a-hole. She is a bully and always was. Do not apologize under any circumstances. Beth knows exactly who her sister is and still sided with her when Jill was clearly in the wrong. Shame on Beth." And OP responds, "Thank you. Liz and Beth's reaction were making me second guess myself. To be honest, I'm seriously considering cutting Beth off for this if she keeps acting like this is all on me when Jill has been acting like this since I was 12. Bored at Home 1962 says, "Not the a-hole. She can give it but she can't take it. That sort you don't apologize to. And Beth is an a-hole too. Gosh, what a pair. 38 and running to 34 because another 34 was mean to her. This is a playground dispute and you called it. I'd be wary of Beth. She caused this by not telling you Jill was going to be there." And Spiritual Maze says, "Not the a-hole. This is not how grown-ups behave. Jill needs to learn some sense of decorum. If this is how she treats her sister's friend, I hate to think how she treats strangers." Okay, well, the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole. So now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. Hi folks, a lot of you asked me to update after my last post to let you know what I decided to do. Thank you to all the commenters who let me know I was not going crazy. Liz and Beth's insistence that I apologize was making me second guess myself, so I appreciate your help. Most of you also pointed out Beth's reaction was enabling Jill, and Liz's reaction was expecting me to roll over in the name of keeping the peace. I've come to realize that this has been a pattern for years in our group, playing peacekeeper to Beth and Jill for the good of the group, not only for me, but for Megan and Kelly as well. So the update. I still haven't heard from Beth, but Liz has been bombarding me with texts and voicemails saying I was out of order and all 3 of them apologies for how I acted and for continuing to drag things out. She even suggested, as a way to start making it up, I should take everyone, including Jill, to a restaurant and pay for everything. I have no desire to spend what would be a month's rent on their drinks bill alone, not to mention I don't feel I've done anything wrong. Frankly, that she even suggested this only persuaded me more to cut her off. I met up with Megan and Kelly last night and told them that I'm not apologizing to Jill. Frankly, she's stuck in her high school mean girl era and I'd be glad never to see her again. I also said I'm sick of swallowing my feelings to avoid tension because Liz and Beth never apologize, and I am cutting contact with Beth and Liz. I was expecting protests about breaking up the group. I did not expect Megan to admit she's only stuck with Liz for so long because, like me with Beth, Liz was one of her only friends during her bullied years and she didn't want to ruin our dynamic by acting out of turn. Or for Kelly to say that for years she's been sick of Liz and Beth treating the three of us like we're inferior and she was worried if she spoke out about it, she'd lose me and Megan as well. We all had a very overdue chat about how we all really feel about this group and agreed that Beth and Liz are not true friends to any of us. Kelly and Megan showed me their messages from Beth and Liz, basically painting me as some kind of demon hell-bent on ruining their lives. I had to laugh at the one from Liz reminding them both of how I ruined her wedding by not attending due to my selfish emergency surgery. This was 5 years ago and I'm only now hearing that I ruined things because some guests asked after my health at the reception and drew attention away from her big day. Clearly, I am an awful person for this. Anyway, we are completely cutting contact. We've saved our messages just in case, cause I don't see Jill, Beth or Liz disappearing quietly from our lives once they realize we're not going to play ball. But in the meantime, we're planning a zoo trip next week, so we'll enjoy a day out free of drama. Well, OP, it sounds to me like a fantastic update. You dropped the non-friends and are keeping the real friends. So good for you and enjoy that trip in the zoo. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.